Well, it's been a time of great personal change for all of us over the last few years. And I've entitled this video Personal Change Made Easy because there are certain modalities, there are certain techniques that I've been sharing with my client base, from a facilitator of change, a life guide, a healer, over the last 25 years plus. So there are some that just seem to work every single time, with one proviso, and that's that you're prepared to actually use it and work with it. So I particularly wanted to talk about, I've covered on my videos, I've covered various other techniques that I know and trust and have used myself so many times and really work. But I also want to introduce a new one I haven't spoken to you about yet before. And it's specifically to look at times. Have you ever had a time, or you're having one now, where your mind's just going over and over and over? It's in a cyclical kind of anxiety. So you're either in a crisis now, so it's in present moment, or sometimes there's an event coming up in the future. Now that can be an appointment about your health, it could be an examination, a test of some sort, it could be the potential of losing your home, or the potential of losing, you know, a loved one. It can be all sorts of different things, something you might consider very small and something you can consider very large. And with anything that's giving you stress, that's giving you anxiety, may even be producing palpitations, where it's affecting your sleep, you're not sleeping well, you feel like you're going a bit nuts, you're going round and round in your head, and you just can't get out of it, and it's a spiral of, it's just a spiral of crisis, then you're in the right place, because I'd like to give you a few heads up, a few things that might just be the thing, if you use it, that'll get you out of that state. Now, I've been with people so many times where they're in this state I've just described, and lots of loved ones and well-meaning people around them are saying, well, just get a grip and get on with it. Or shake it off, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. That's a really good one. And when you're in this kind of state, you can't find fine, and you can't find it's okay. You might understand on a logical level that that is a particular truth that you could have, but sometimes you just can't find it. So I'm operating from that, where life just isn't making sense and we're in overwhelm, right? So let's have a go. So the first thing is, I know some of these might sound a bit bonkers, but it really works, is go and have a glass of water. Most of the time that we're under anxiety, stress, and we're in crisis and overwhelm, we've forgotten the basics of looking after ourselves, or we're not attending to ourselves. And being dehydrated always makes it worse. It makes it much worse. So the first thing is, go and get yourself some water, have a drink. And if you're in one of those states right now, or you're perceiving a future event where you're getting, you know, anxious about it, that event can be absolutely stupendously wonderful. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. So go get some water, put me on pause. I'm going to have a glass of water now. It will make you feel better. Okay, the next thing is to be very clear about what it is. What is the subject that you're getting worried and upset about? Sounds simple, but it's actually, sometimes when we get into overwhelm, we've got all sorts of random thoughts coming at us from all sorts of different places, and we've lost track of where we're up to. So this helps you to get back on track. So the next thing is to say out loud what it is to yourself that you're concerned about. What is it? What's the problem? What is the crisis? Sometimes it's nice just to write it down because we're witnessing it, and that helps too. Depends on who you are and what you want to do. So what we've got now is we've got clarity. We've hydrated ourselves, and we're very clear about what it is we're getting worked up about. We're very clear on that. And if you can't be exceptionally clear, just get something. Get something. So it's there in front of you. You've written down, I'm really anxious about this appointment on the such and such a day. I'm really anxious about this interview. I'm really anxious about such and such a thing. First of all, you're admitting to yourself you're anxious. So that brings truth and honour and respect and self-awareness in there. And you're naming the event that you're anxious about. It could be in the now, it could be in the future. So now we've identified what the challenge could be. Could be other things as well, I realise that, and it could be many things, but we've given ourselves half a chance because we've put it into the now. We've claimed something. I'm always saying, you know, if you can name it, you can claim it, and then you've got power, self-power, self-empowerment to actually do something about it that you choose to do in your way to affect your own life. So you've named it, therefore you've claimed it. I'm anxious about this, this and this. And then we can start having some options, and there's many of them, about how we can change how we feel about that potential future. Okay, so one of the ways of doing that, I'm going to go through about 4, I think, of different ways of doing it. So one of them is, and it's something that may or may not fit with you, but I've used it all my life. If I've got a real scary thing coming up and it's a real unknown and I'm out of my depth, I always ask myself the question, what's the worst thing that can happen? You know, what is the worst thing that's going to happen? Now, if I get an answer to that of I could die, then that'll give me options of doing something else. Anything other than that, it's like, well, I could lose this, this and this, or I could be hurt in this, this and this way. Whatever the answer to that question is, if you're okay to ask it in the first place, what's the worst that can happen? Whatever comes up actually is what you're dealing with. That's what you're dealing with. That's where your anxiety is. So if the worst is, I'm going to lose £10 on that bet or something, it's like, oh, if that's the worst that's going to happen, I'm going to do it anyway. It's okay. I can handle whatever I perceive the worst to be, so it's okay. And very rarely does the worst happen, but if it were to, you'd be prepared because you've actually acknowledged that that was the fear, acknowledged that that was the worry, the anxiety seed was coming from that. You faced that potential reality, and you're willing to gamble that potential reality because there are many other different realities that could also be in your life. So you've empowered yourself to face the worst and do it anyway. So that's number 1. The question is, what's the worst that can happen, and can I handle that? Yes or no? Okay, so the second thing to help you is your breath. You know, anxiety means that we've taken our breath from out of the belly, out of the diaphragm. We're breathing really high up and very shallowly. We're usually very high in the lungs and we're very high in the chest, and we're going at a rapid rate. So we need to drop it down into the belly. You need to breathe in long breaths. So this is something that a lot of asthmatics have used. I've got a very full version of this. The full version of this is called 4x4 breathing, and that's on another video. But if you're really in an anxiety space and you haven't practiced the 4x4, it goes out your head. So all you need to do is breathe in and out, which is what you're doing anyway, but just slow it right down. I love the number 4. Let's take that. So it's to try and remember to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. So it's literally breathing into the count of 4. Try it with me now. It's like, and then breathing out through your mouth. And as you're doing that, so I was trying to show you there to breathe in as you're counting to your rate of 4, whatever that is. And then, you know, sometimes you'll find your shoulders going up when you're doing that. If you can keep them down, that's great. But if they do that, don't worry. Just breathe out. And as you're breathing out, try and lower your shoulders down towards the floor. So it's breathing in and just breathing out. When you count to us, pick your favourite number and try and count to that. Unless it's like 22 or something. It's best if it's a medium. Well, anyway, you play with it. Whatever number you want to do, you can count really fast if that's what it is. But it's finding a number that's longer, really, than the breath you're currently taking. So if you're breathing like that because your anxiety is rising, then just make it longer than that. So you're breathing in and breathing out. You can add to that the mantra of I am when you're breathing in. I am. And then when you're breathing out, calm. So in your mind, you can be saying the mantra I am as you're breathing in, and then calm. So you're taking additional control of what's going on in your thoughts and your body by using that technique. That really, really, really does help. It does work. It starts to shift your position, change your state. This is all about changing your state into something more positive so you can make choices from a more balanced life point. Okay, so number 3 is something I've talked to you about quite a lot, which is called Game of Opposites. Now, again, there's a very full video about this that I've done a long time ago. It's called Game of Opposites. I really, really recommend, you know, if you're a person who's getting knocked about by life in general now and you're getting these anxiety peaks quite often, please invest your time in those 2 videos, the 4x4 breath, Game of Opposites. Practice them at times when you're not anxious so that when you do have a stressful moment, you can employ them to your benefit. But let's just do a really quick and easy one now. Let's say, I don't know, what we've got to do is think of the opposite. So let's say your anxiety point is, we say something like, sometimes I'm really worried about this future interview, and sometimes I feel confident about this interview, and I'm okay with that. You have to name what is the opposite to it. So let's say I'm worried. What is the opposite to me or to you about being worried? The opposite for me about being worried is about free thinking, really. For me, it might not make sense to you, and that's where the full video will explain why you do it this way. But in my instance there, it would be sometimes I'm really worried about this interview, and sometimes I have free thinking around this interview, and I'm okay with that. Sometimes I'm really worried about this interview, and sometimes I'm really free thinking about this interview, and I'm okay with that. And that's actually it. That's all we do. And you can do it in small hand movements, and you don't have to make a great big thing of it. If you're surrounded by people, you can even do it with your thumbs and do it internally. But to get the full benefit of this, then please check out the video, because all you need to be able to do is name what it is that you're stressed out about and ask yourself, nobody else fills this gap, what's the opposite of that? What's the opposite of fear? What's the opposite of anxiety? What's the opposite of whatever it is that's going on? Allow your subconscious to lift your vibes to deliver the message of the opposite thing, and include that. You're not ignoring the feeling that you've got right at the moment, and that's why this technique works so very, very well, is you're incorporating both, and you're bringing it into neutral territory, and you're using your physicality to bring it together. And then that gives you an option of strong choice. Okay? And then last but not least, is one that comes out of NLP, matrix reimprinting, that kind of thing. And it's absolutely beautiful. And this is an extremely simple version. We need it to be simple because we're in those times of crisis, anything complicated, and we'll throw it out before we've even begun. But this works really, really, really well. We're going to talk about this interview again that we've got going on in our near future. So what you need to do for this is you just need to be able to have had your water. You've definitely identified that you're stressed out about this interview. This is just an example. Stressed out about that interview there. It's like, okay, I've asked myself, what's the worst thing that can happen? I've done the breath, I've done the opposites, and I'm still like, you don't have to do it in any of these orders. You can jump to any of these that you like and get really used to it and just use that one thing. But in this case, what I'd like you to do is imagine that the interview is in your future, and your future is just ahead of you. Just ahead of you. This is a simplified version, so it's just ahead of you somewhere. And I'd like you to point to it wherever it is in front of you. It can be in front of you that way or in front of you that way. As an example, I'm going to point over there. Right, that's where my interview is. It's in 2 weeks' time and it's there. And I'm really whacking myself about it. It's like, oh my God. And I can't think straight. And it's like, and I really need some help because I really want this to go well. So what I'd like you to do then is, whatever age you are now, I'd like you to imagine you have an older self. Older, wiser, been there, done it all, has got a lot to say about life, and you're about 100, 90, 80, 120, whatever you are. And I'd like you to put your future self way over there in the line, okay? Not the end of the line, you're still alive, but way over there. And I'd like you to have a good look at her or him and say hello. And then what I'd really like you to do is I'd like you to walk through that future interview and the future life all the way up to your future self. So we walk all the way up there. I can't do it because I'm obviously on the video, otherwise I would be doing it with you. And we walk all the way up there and we stand in front of our wizened, ancient self who's been there and done it. You've no idea how much fun she's had or he's had, how many tears he or she has shed. We've no idea. But they're older, they've survived it all, they're looking pretty damn good for their age, And so you go up there and she or he has got some big pearls of wisdom to offer to you. They've got some really good advice. So what I'd like you to do is stand in front of them, open your heart, open your hands, and receive it. You might want to shut your eyes at this point and just receive the wisdom. Hear whatever it is your older self, your older self tells you about this interview, about your life beyond that, about your life, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ahead from that interview in 2 weeks' time. Listen to that wisdom, say thank you, and then walk backwards to the place you began. So we'd walk backwards to this time. We're in the present, in this moment. And I will wave to my older self and see her disappear. And I will take all of that knowledge and that wisdom and that good advice, solid, grounded advice. And now I want you to look at that interview in 2 weeks' time. Just check how you feel about it. Has it changed? Have you changed? I've still got a few butterflies. They're sometimes good for me. But I've got perspective. I've got my life's perspective on this moment. And I'm okay with that now. I'm far less anxious. I can approach it just from a slight worry point of view and maybe some good butterflies point of view. But it's not overwhelming me anymore. Okay? You can stop it there, or what you can do is take all of that knowledge and that pizzazz you've got now from this knowledge of it being different, and you can walk into that interview and out beyond it by about 15 minutes and allow yourself to feel confident, feel wonderful, feel free, feel like leadership in your own life. All of those wonderful things that your older self has said, allow yourself to feel it as you walk through that interview to a time when the interview is finished. And then again, you walk back this way and stand here and have a bit of a reckoning. Just see, what do I reckon about that then? Has that changed things? How do I feel? Do I feel freer? How am I a bit more in do I feel more confident now? Do I feel more composure? Am I able to breathe easier? What is the change I've just made? I can assure you, if you do this, there will be a change. And you just need to deepen it and do it a little bit more if you want a bigger change. Okay, my loves, well, that's 4 things to help you. I think we all need help from time to time, and we can tool ourselves up so that we can help ourselves and be our own healers in lots of different ways. And this is just one way of managing that personal change in the instant. Some of them will take 5 minutes. Others you might want to choose to spend a whole 15 minutes on it. Others can take 2 seconds. Just take a breath, a very, very deep breath, an intended breath. Add a few words that feel right to you. I am calm. And your shift of perception, your physicality and breath and your nervous system can be soothed, relieved, nurtured, nourished. And I really recommend you practice some of these techniques when you're feeling pretty good. So when the poop hits the fan occasionally and you're feeling crap, you've got something there to assist yourself with. All right, my loves. Mwah. Lots of love. Oh, do comment below. Do have a chat with me about anything. Again, if you need to ask me anything, then please do. And do look up my website. My Celestial Attunement course is coming up in a few days' time. I'm welcoming everybody to that. It's a way of building our reserves from a light body, spiritual, loving, woohoo point of view. See you soon. Bye for now.